Hello students, I welcome you all to the online class of Physical Education, class 12. So today I have come up with another chapter, that is chapter 5, Children and Women in Sports. So let us discuss about what are all the things we will be discussing under this chapter. So as you see in the slide, students, that first of all we will be discussing about motor development and factors affecting motor development. Next we will be discussing about the exercises guidelines at different stages of growth and development. After that we will be focusing on various common postural deformities. Next we will be discussing about the corrective measures of various postural deformities. Followed by that we will be discussing sports participation of women in India. The last two topic has been deleted from your syllabus for the session 2020 and 2021. Okay? So let's move forward. So the very first slide, as you can see, students, meaning of motor development. What is basically motor development? So motor development means all the bodily development, various types of development that is taking place within an individual after his or her birth till death is known as motor development. Let's see. So development of a child's bone, muscles and ability to move around and the ability to manipulate his or her environment is known as motor development. Motor skills are essential for everyday life. Now when we call everyday life, so what are all everyday life activities? Like walking, running, jumping. So next, motor development is of two types. They are gross motor development and fine motor development. So let's move to another slide. So as you can see in this slide, students, that first type of motor development is gross motor development. So basically in gross motor development, the development of big muscles like our hand and legs come into existence. So let's see. It involves the development of large muscles in child's body, especially while sitting, walking, running, climbing, etc. Next slide. So next slide is of fine motor development. Fine motor development means development of the small, the tiny parts. For example, the fingertips. So as you can see in the image, student, that the child is holding the pencil in his finger. So finger is the tiny part of our body, smallest part. All the delicate things are being performed with the help of our fingers only. You take example of fine arts. In fine arts, what happens? We are drawing with the help of fingertips. Art and craft, we are giving various designs, we are making models with the help of our fingertips. We are playing piano, harmonium, etc., etc. So all these instruments are played with the help of fingertips. So this is all about fine motor development. So fine motor skills is the coordination of small muscles in movement, usually involving the synchronization of hand and finger with the eyes. Moving to next slide. The next slide is of motor development in children. Now when we say about the childhood stage, the childhood stage has been classified into three types. They are early childhood, middle childhood and late childhood, depending on the age categories. Early childhood starts from 2 years of age and continues up to 6 years of age. Middle childhood starts from 7 years of age and continues till the end of 10 years of age. The late childhood starts from 11 years of age and ends by 12 years of age. Moving to next slide, students. As you can see in the slide, the slide is of early childhood, that is 2 to 6 years of age. So what are all the developments that take place in early childhood? So the child learns various movements such as running, jumping, throwing. So we need to assume ourselves as a child between 2 to 6 years of age, or we can have some kid in our home in which we can find these developments. So the second development is the child learns to climb stairs in this age only. The last one is the child learns basic dance steps. Basic dance steps. So moving ahead. Next one is the middle childhood stage. In this stage, the child learns, the child's development of hand-eye coordination is developed. The next one is motor skills are being perfected. Motor skills like running, jumping, throwing. So these are all part of motor skills. They get perfected. The next one is the child learns to run faster, jump higher, as well as improves upon his balance mechanism. So all these developments are taking place in middle childhood stage. So moving to next slide, students. Next slide is of late childhood, that is 11 to 12 years of age. So first of all, girls grow faster than boys in this stage. No difference in physical abilities of boys and girls. The last one is children are equipped to master complete movements. That means the children will be learning all the things to have a mastery over all the movements. Moving ahead, the next slide, as you can see, students, we are discussing about various factors that affect our motor development. So what are those various factors? So the various factors, first of all, is the biological factor. So this one is the biological factor. So what is biological factor? Biological factor means, again, genetic factors. We can inherit certain biological problems if it is persisting in our parents. Okay? The next one is environmental factors. Environmental factors means our surroundings, the place where we live. If it is not conducive, if it does not promote, if it does not motivate to participate in motor activities, how an individual will get motivated? The next one is physical activities. If physical activities are not practiced on regular basis, the physical fitness level or the proper motor development cannot take place properly within a child. The next one is nutrition. Nutrition forms the base. Proper nutrition is very, very essential. So, if proper nutrition is not being given to the children, motor development cannot take place in a proper ratio. The next one is opportunities. Opportunities means, students, there are a group of children who get opportunity to participate. Also, there is a certain group of children who doesn't get opportunity to participate. That means the individuals who get opportunity to participate in games and sports, in physical activities, physical exercises, in them the motor development takes place in a far, far better way in comparison to those children, those who don't get an opportunity to participate in physical activities, physical exercises, games and sports. The next one is sensory impairment. So, if there is any sensory impairment, that means the sensory organs within our body are not working properly. then also the child may affect his motor development. The next one is obesity. It is a common problem. Because of obesity, the individual is not participating in games and sports, physical activities, and when he is not regular to games and sports and physical activities or exercises, he is having the less chance of getting proper development of motor development. So the last one is postural deformities. So due to postural deformities also, it may affect the motor development. Postural deformities means the bad postures. Next, moving to the next slide, students. So the next slide is all about the various exercise guidelines at different stages of growth and development. Now when I talk of different stages of growth and development, it starts from infancy stage and moves or continues till adulthood stage. So let's see. Infancy stage starts after birth and continues till the end of 2 years of age. So what are all the exercises, what are all the activities an infants must inculcate or an infant need to be undergo? Let's see. So first one is here, exercise to develop head control. So parents of infants, they must coordinate with these activities or exercises. That is, exercise to develop head control, sitting, crawling, etc. should be encouraged by the parents. Next, indulge in some exercises such as moving arms, legs and reaching to various objects. Next one is provided objects, toys, games that encourage to move, do things by themselves. The last one is exercise like throwing, catching, kicking a ball may be most suitable exercise during adolescence stage. Moving to next slide, students. Our next slide is of early childhood. So early childhood here we have considered from 3 to 7 years of age. So what are all the exercises that a child of 3 to 7 years must undergo? Let's see. So developing competence in movement. So the child must develop competence in his or her movement, like throwing, catching, jumping and kicking a ball. Next is emphasis should be laid down on participation and not on competition. Okay, so emphasis should be laid down on participation and not on competition. That means they should participate in physical activities in games and sports, but that doesn't mean that they should participate in competition. Okay, so next is activities related to fine motor skills. That is, coordinative abilities should be emphasized. The last one is structured as well as unstructured physical activities should also be performed daily for at least 60 minutes, that is 1 hour, by children during this stage of growth. Next slide, students. This is late childhood. Okay, later childhood we have included children from 8 years to 12 years of age. So what are all the exercises the children must do under this age? That is, children should indulge in activities such as slants, throwing, jumping, catching, running, etc. So they can acquire body control, strength and coordination. Because these three things are very important for the student to participate in competitive sports. The three things are body control, strength and coordination. Endurance related activities should not be avoided. Okay, so endurance related activities should be avoided. Children should be introduced to competitive sports and taught the basic rules of sports. So children under this age should be taught the basic rules of games and sports so that the interest can be developed in the children. Next, the next one is adolescent stage. Adolescent stage starts from 13 years of age and it continues till the end of 19 years of age. So let's see what are all the exercises an adolescent must practice. That is, in this stage, moderate to vigorous intensity exercises or physical activities is recommended. Intensity means effort. How much effort we can exert, that is known as intensity. So under adolescent stage, moderate to vigorous intensity participation need to be there. Indulge in muscle strengthening exercises at least 3 days in a week. So in a week, at least for 3 days, the individuals should participate for muscle strengthening exercises. Reduce sedentary lifestyle. The adolescent must reduce sedentary lifestyle. Sedentary lifestyle means all those activities which demands longer sitting duration activities. The basic example is the IT job. The IT persons, they need to sit on the chair for longer duration and work on computers. Exercise such as running, gymnastics, push-ups, jumping rope, playing hockey, basketball, that means basically the competitive sports need to be practiced during adolescent stage. Moving ahead to the next stage, that is adulthood. So adulthood stage starts after 19 years of age. What are all the exercise guidelines for adults? Adults require such exercises and activities that help to increase their muscular and bone strength. So adults will be motivated to participate in such activities which will help them to increase the strength of their muscles and bones. The next one is they should perform resistance exercise at least 2 days in a week to tone their muscles and bones. For bone strengthening, they should include running, jumping, rope and weight training exercises. So these are the activities for bone strengthening, to increase the strength of bone. Bone strengthening exercises or activities produce an impact on tension force on the bones that promotes bone growth and strength. So more of the focus, more of the emphasis is laid on bone strengthening activities. Because students, we are well aware that as we grow older, our bones starts getting weak. So to protect that, to minimize that problem, adults are always need to practice the bone strengthening exercises or activities. So moving ahead, students, next in the slide we can see that common postural deformities. So we are moving to another topic. Now onwards we are going to discuss about all the common postural deformities. Now when I talk about postural deformities means all the bad postures. Basically there are 7 types of postural deformities which we will be discussing in your syllabus. So as you see, the first one is spinal curvature. Spinal curvature means, students, all the postural deformities which are related to our spinal cord, that is kyphosis, lordosis and scoliosis. These three postural deformities are related with our spinal cord and hence they are termed as spinal curvature deformities. The next one is flat foot, knock knee, bow legs and round shoulders. These are the 7 types of postural deformities which we will be discussing one by one from our next slide. So, yes students, as in the next slide you can see spinal curvature. As I told you, spinal curvature means all the deformities that are related to our spinal cord. There are basically 3 types of postural deformities that are related to spinal cord. They are kyphosis, lordosis and scoliosis. So let's move to next slide, that is kyphosis. So students, as you can see, this is a normal spinal cord and this is the spinal cord of the individual who is affected through kyphosis deformity. So what is the difference you are observing between this, the normal spinal cord and the kyphotic spinal cord? The difference is the upper portion of the spinal cord is getting bent forward, leaning forward. So that is kyphosis. So what happens in kyphosis is an increase or exaggeration of a backward or posterior curve or a decrease or reversal of a forward curve. That means students, basically in kyphosis what happens, the upper portion of the spinal cord is getting bent forward, is getting lean forward, and that may take place because of the subject's habit of holding his head forward. You take example of a tailor master. A tailor master, when cutting clothes, he need to look down most of the time. You take example of if anybody is having hard of hearing, so what he need to do? To assist his hearing, he will be bending forward. If anybody is having vision problem, what they will do? They will bend down to see the things that what is written in the notebook. So these are all the causes of kyphosis. So let's move forward to lordosis. Now just see the image student. This is the spinal cord of a normal human being and on the right hand side it is lordosis of a spinal cord. So in lordosis, the lower portion of the spinal cord is getting inward curvature. I repeat, in lordosis, the lower portion of the spinal cord is getting inward curvature. Just find, I have shown with the help of arrow. And due to the spinal cord getting inward curvature, the abdomen muscles, the buttocks are getting outward. So, just see inward curvature of the spine is taking place. It is an increased forward curve in the lumbar region, means waist region. It creates problem in standing, walking. The body seems to be stiff. Can be corrected in an early stage. Now, what are the cause? What are the cause of lordosis? Cause can be to carry heavy bags, heavy weight. Okay, we find children carrying heavy weight on their back. So that can be one of the cause. Other causes can be imbalanced diet, improper environment, improper development of muscles, obesity, and disease affecting vertebra and spinal muscles. Next slide, students. In the next slide, we will be discussing about scoliosis. So, as you can observe, students, this image, basically in scoliosis, the affected individual is having C curve or S curve. I repeat, in scoliosis deformity, the individual is having either C curve or S curve in his spinal cord. That means if an individual is having the habit of holding his or her body to any one of the side, that can be left side or right side, then the individual will be most likely to suffer from scoliosis deformity. That is, because of his habit of holding the body to either left side or right side, if that becomes consistent habit, then that may lead to deformity known as scoliosis. Moving to next slide, students. The next slide is flat foot. Now, since you see this is related to normal arc of an individual. A normal individual is having an arc below the foot. If you want to check your foot, just you need to pour water on your foot and you start walking with the weight fit. If you find this similar curvature nature, that means everything is fit and fine. But for flat foot individual, the footprints will be, their entire foot will be coming in contact with the floor. So that is a deformity. That is a serious problem. They feel problem in running, walking, and also they are not getting selected for civil services job. So what are all the things an individual need to do for flat foot? First of all, the causes can be, again, if a child is made to walk at very early stage, then the child will be very much prone, will be very much likely to get flat foot deformity. Moving ahead, students, the next deformity is knock knee. As you can see in the image, students, this is the correct posture, okay? And just see the individual with knock knee. What you observe, both the knees are in contact, but there is a huge gap between both the ankles. So we can summarize it by saying that in knock knee, the gap between the knees get reduced and the gap between the ankles increases. This is also a postural deformity, and the individuals suffering from knock knee deformities, they are also not being selected for civil services. Next, as you see in the slide, what are the causes? The causes can be, it is caused due to lack of balanced diet, especially vitamin D, calcium and phosphorus. So these are the probable causes of knock knee. So moving to the next slide, that is bow legs. Bow legs is the opposite of knock knee. So as you see the image, students, this is knock knee where both the knees are in contact with each other and the gap between the ankles increases. But just observe the bow leg. In bow leg, what happens? The gap between the knee increases and the gap between the ankle reduces, minimizes, and the feet of the bow leg individual is looking more likely like a bow. So that is why the name has been given bow legs. The probable cause are deficiency of calcium and phosphorus in bones, obesity, deficiency of vitamin D, improper way of walking are all the probable cause of bow legs. Next slide, students. Next slide is of round shoulders. So you can see two images. This is the normal individual. You can see the head held high, vision in front, and this is the image of a round shoulder. That's why I have crossed it, that this is the wrong body posture. What do you observe? What is the difference? In this, a normal person, the head is held high. Just observe the position of neck and the head. And in round shoulder body pose, what do you find? The neck is leaning forward, bending forward, and due to the neck leaning forward, the head is also leaning forward. So the probable cause of round shoulder is caused by wearing very tight clothes, sitting on improper furniture, lack of proper exercise, especially shoulder and normal round. So moving to next slide, students. Next we will be discussing about all the corrective measures for these postural deformities. So this is all about the corrective measures for kyphosis. You can see the following exercises. So basically the emphasis in all the exercises is laid on arching the upper spinal cord, means arching the head back as much as possible. Okay, because we have understood that, students, kyphosis is a postural deformity where the upper portion of the spinal cord is leaning forward, bending forward. That means all the exercises should be practiced where the upper portion of the spinal cord is getting arched towards backside. Next one, the next slide is the corrective measures related to lordosis. Lordosis is a deformity which is related to lower portion of the spinal cord. So a student or a children who is suffering from lordosis deformity, he or she need to practice toe touch exercise, also forward lunging exercise and squat exercise. Squat exercise means standing and sitting down. So in all these three exercises, basically the lower portion of our spinal cord, that is just above the lumbar region, gets stretched. In the next slide, students, you can see the corrective measures for scoliosis. Scoliosis, as I have told you, is related to C-curve that can take place either to left hand side or right hand side. So in scoliosis, basically the side which will be having C-curve or S-curve need to be stretched on the opposite side. So just see this twisting exercise. Whichever side of the individual is suffering from C-curve or S-curve, the individual need to go for opposite side stretching. Just see in the image. This is handstand. Next. In the next slide, students, we are going to discuss the corrective measures for knock knee. Where knock knee means where both the knees are knocking with each other. So here all the exercise should emphasize on developing or creating gap between both the knees. This, you see, this is butterfly exercise is being performed. Here the individual is lying with a piece of cloth in between both the knees. Here you see the individual's one leg is kept over the chair, the other leg is kept at the bottom of the chair. So if these exercises are practiced on longer duration, then slowly, gradually gap will start arising in the knees. The next is all the corrective measures for bow legs. So bow leg, what we understand, that a bow formation takes place where the gap between knee increases but the gap between ankle reduces. So first of all, you see the girl is lying in supine position and one foot is extended on the floor, the other leg is being bent and arched. The other exercise you see, the subject is lying on prone position, folding his leg and weight has been kept over his foot. Performing Garudasana and Ardha Matsandra Asana can also help the children with bow legs. Moving to next slide. This is corrective measures for round shoulders. That means what are all the exercises need to be performed. So Chakrasana, Dhanurasana, Gomukh Asana, these all asanas can help an individual suffering from round shoulders. Also, you can see the exercise. The subject is holding the ribbon in his hand with full extension. Okay? Next, in this, the lady is lying in prone position over the mat with his both the hands arching at the back, with the head being lifted above the mat. So these are some of the exercises for corrective exercises for round shoulders. Moving to the next slide, students. So this is about the corrective exercises for flat foot. Flat foot means the entire foot of the individual is coming in contact with the floor. That means the arc is missing. So what are all the activities? You see, the subject is asked to pick these pebbles, to pick these marbles and keep it in the glass. The subject is picking the marbles with the help of his fingertips of leg. Next, the subject is squeezing the towel with the help of his fingertips, that is toes. Next, some massage has been given. I will also suggest you some exercises, that is rope skipping or jumping on toes. So these are all very good exercises, students, for flat foot activities. Next, students, in the next slide, as you can see, the sports participation of women in India. So basically we will be focusing about the women sports persons of our country. So let's see. So first of all, till 1952 Olympics, there was no participation from our country. Gender inequality is strong evident in the field of sports in our country. The male sports persons are getting advantage over the female counterpart. Next one is less opportunity in comparison to male counterparts. So less facilities, less opportunities are given to female sports person. Next one is social environment inhibits women from sports participation. Social environment means the people in the society, in neighborhood, at home are not always permitting the girls to come out of the home and participate in games and sports. That can be a major issue why less number of girls are participating in games and sports. That can be safety issue also. That can be any home related things. The next one is now more sportswomen emerging as a role models. So at present there are more women coming forward as role models for the women sports persons. So Mary Leela Rowe, the athlete, she was the first woman to represent India at Helsinki Olympics in 1952. So since I told you here students that the first Indian woman who participated in Olympics was in the year of 1952. So question can be asked, who was the first Indian athlete to participate for the first time? So she is Mary Leela Rowe in the year 1952 in Helsinki Olympics. Karlam Maleshwari, the first Indian woman to win a bronze medal in Sydney Olympics in the year 2000. Saina Nehwal, Mary Kom won bronze medal in badminton and boxing in London Olympics that took place in 2012. In 2016 students, PV Sindhu secured silver medal in badminton, and that is the highest achievement so far by any Indian athlete. So it is a proud moment for all the women in the country, and also she is the role model for many of the youngsters. Next in the slide we are going to discuss the probable reasons of less participation of women in games and sports in our country. The first one is lack of legislation. Legislation means rules and regulations. There is serious less number of rules and regulations in our legislation students. Next one is lack of time. Women hardly get time. They are very much engaged in household work. They get very less amount of time, and that is also a cause for less participation in games and sports. So students, the next one, the third one is lack of self-confidence. Now due to girls are not getting exposure towards games and sports, their self-confidence is also on the lower side. More the exposure, more the participation, more will be your self-confidence. So since lesser participation, they have less confidence upon themselves. The next one is male-dominant culture of the sports. This is a very fact thing that games and sports in our country is mostly male-dominated. The very basic example is you see the sporting events where male contingents are participating, and you compare it with all the games and sports where female contingent are participating. The number of spectators, very less number of spectators are witnessing the match where female counterparts are participating. This is a very shameless thing. We should give proper weightage. We should respect all the counterparts, whether it can be male or it can be female. So that is also one of the major cause of less participation of women. Next one is lack of interest in spectators and less media coverage, as I told you students. That less media coverage is, media is also doing the biasness. Media is also not broadcasting the games which are played by women counterpart. Next one is lack of female sports persons as role model. So since less participation of women is coming, so from where the role models will come? So these 2 points are correlated. Since less number of students, less number of women are participating in games and sports, that is the only reason why there are less number of females coming forward as role model. So in the next slide also, students, we are going towards the continuation of less number of participation of women in sports. So that is lack of fitness and wellness movement in women. So since they are mostly engaged in household activities, they are not being permitted to come out of their home. Their physical fitness is also on the lower side. The next one is lack of awareness among women. So women are getting less aware because they are not getting proper exposure. So when they are not getting exposure, awareness is on the lower side, and when awareness is on the lower side, they are not coming up, they are not coming forward to participate in games and sports in maximum number. Next one is lack of women coaches. So this can be again correlated. Until and unless you participate, how do you come to know about the game? Since there are less number of women participation, that is also a major cause of less number of women coaches. And it is also a very fact, students, that a girl fraternity, a woman sportsman feels much more comfortable in the presence of a woman coach. And since there are lesser number of women coach in our country, so it lead to lesser number of women participation in games and sports. The next one is attitude of the society towards women participation. So society is the greatest hurdles. Society plays the role of biggest obstacle for the women's sports. Still today we are surviving in 21st century, but if we move towards the rural part of our country, still the mental aptitude level, the thinking process of the aged population have not changed. It is not like that our country is lagging in quality, our country is lagging in talent. Obviously there is quality, there is talent, but the thing is, talents are not being expressed in a proper way. The next one is lack of personal safety. Yes, this is very, very important, and yes, the government must work on this problem. Enough safety need to be given. If safety is not given to the woman sports person, how they will move out of the home? It is not for all the sports person that just beside their home only they get all the facilities. For many of the women sports person, they need to travel lot. The very best example is the movie Dangal. It's a wonderful movie and gives a wonderful message also. So government need to look into it, need to provide better facilities regarding on safety structure to the women sports person. The last but not the least is lack of access to sports facilities. Yes, women sports persons are always rated below, and that is the only reason why they are not been given better facilities. There are many more reasons, students, but we need to overcome these problems, and the best thing to come out of this problem is to educate the woman. More and more education should be provided to the women so that they come to know, they get aware the difference between right and the wrong, what is good for them, what is bad for them. Okay, our country is developing, so let us all join hands in promoting the sports for women. So I think, students, you all have understood the content which we have discussed today in our online class. So just for a repetition, today we have discussed first of all about motor development, we have discussed types of motor development, we have also discussed the factors affecting motor development, then we have discussed the exercise guidelines, at different stages of growth, followed by we have discussed the various postural deformities, then we have discussed all the corrective measures for postural deformities. Next we discussed the women participation in our country. What is the position of women participation in our country? At last we have discussed about all the probable causes of less participation of women in games and sports in our country. So I hope students you have understood the things. If still you have any problem, any doubt in the content of this chapter, you can personally approach me. I will be very happy in helping you in clearing your doubts. So thank you all of you students. Stay blessed, stay safe. We will again meet with another chapter in another online video class. So thank you all of you. God bless us all.